When was the last time you saw someone and thought that they were perfect? Think back and try to remember someone who seemed utterly flawless to you. For some, that feeling comes when they see their newborn child for the first time. For others, it's seeing a true love. I can tell you it's the same for animals as it is for humans. Every now and then that special soul appears in your life, and no matter how others may perceive them, regardless of how they see themselves, to you, they are perfect. I've experienced that feeling several times. The first was when I met James on the riverside that sunny day in May. The second was when I saw my mother walking across the farm later that same night. If you haven't encountered a soul like this yet in your life, trust me, you will. And once it happens, the time it took for you to meet them will seem trivial and well worth the wait.
I should have brought something, Rocket whispered.
You did. You brought yourself, James said and patted Rocket on the head. I can't think of a better gift. I'll bet she would enjoy that chocolate tour you were telling me about, I offered. Belle came over the rise and smiled at the three of us as she approached. Her fur shined bright in the moonlight, and her eyes shimmered. She looked far younger and far more radiant than I could have ever imagined. A warm breeze carried the scent of young Mayflowers up from the river below, as if to welcome my mother to her new life. James smiled. "Hello, Belle." "Hello," Belle replied. I feel like we've met." James laughed. "You would be surprised how often I get that. Point in fact, we have, but you were very, very young." Belle studied James for a moment. Sometimes I have dreams of you, of before I was born. And we used to play? Were those real? Are those memories?" James clapped his hands. "Some of them are, yes. I'm glad you remember. We had a lot of fun, you and me."
"Hello, Belle,"
Rocket said. He stared at the ground for a moment and seemed unsure of what to do or say next. "Rocket? You old scoundrel, you! How have you been?" Belle asked, and began laughing.
Good. I've been showing our son here the ropes all day."
"Rocket has been helping me for years, actually," James said. "He's quite a good teacher, if you ask me." Belle looked up at James and then back to Rocket. "Years?" Rocket looked embarrassed.
Well, yeah."
"Don't tell me it was a car." Rocket did not reply, but he did nod a little. "At least it was a '68 Stingray. There are worse ways to go," James said, and winked at my father. The four of us talked well into the night. Belle asked many of the same questions I had, and seemed just as mesmerized by her new life. James said he especially liked to see all mothers on their first day, to say hello and to thank them. It was hard to imagine the intricacies involved in that sort of effort, and I puzzled over it for weeks afterwards. Just before dawn, James offered to take Belle to see Wicket, as he was undoubtedly having a very hard time saying goodbye to her. James also mentioned Belle's mother, and some sort of mysterious celebration he needed to get her to before long. Aside from the celebration being a secret, James would say no more, but he did promise we would all have a grand time. Everyone agreed to meet again shortly, and Rocket made a point of promising chocolate all around. My father and I stood on the hilltop, watching James and Belle make their way to the barn.
"Are you ready to go back to the river, then?" my father asked. "When I left, Chinook was actually attempting the water."
"He was?"
"Yep. I don't know what got into him, but he was trying it out. Maybe he realized life's too short not to at least try a thing.
That sounds fun, I replied. I was still a little numb from seeing my mother and a bit overwhelmed with the day's events. I think Rocket sensed it before we left.
When we get there, I was wondering if you could help me with something.
Sure. What is it?
Well, there's a little boy out there, and from what I understand, he's been there for a very long time.
A boy? What do you mean?
I think he died there a while ago. From what I gathered, he's pretty much avoided everyone who's come to help, even you know who. I don't know why, but in situations like this, sometimes dogs like us can help. And
I interrupted. You're telling me there's a ghost of a little boy out by the river and he's been avoiding everyone?
Yep. James said the boy's name is Colin, and he's been waiting for me.
What does that mean?
I have absolutely no idea. Figured we go check it out.
And so we were off. Back to the river, back to my family, and back to a little boy who had died there many years before.